Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then I hope you aren't too disappointed. Today I will be reviewing the one and only King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. This is kind of a spin-off to the Grisha trilogy, which I have not read yet. I'm actually in the middle of reading Shadow and Bone right now, but as you can see, I'm not that far into it, so I got a little bit to go. But speaking of that, I wanted to say that if you have not read the Shadow and Bone trilogy and also the Six of Crows duology, you are probably going to be a bit confused during this book, at least in the beginning, because you don't know who Grisha are, you don't know who Nina is. It's just a bit confusing for those who haven't read it, so I would really suggest you do. I feel like I heard Leigh Bardugo say somewhere that you didn't have to read the Grisha trilogy and Six of Crows to understand King of Scars, but that's just my personal opinion that you should read them. That was my mistake with reading this before reading the trilogy, so do not do as I do. However, we will be talking about this book today. I have a lot of thoughts on it, so let's get into this book and what it is about. King of Scars is following King Nikolai, who is the King of Scars. It has been 3 years since the Darkling, the antagonist of the Shadow and Bone trilogy, has plagued him with this monster that is always hungry for human flesh, but it only comes out at night, so no one really knows that this is happening, and he likes to keep it that way. Throughout this book, Nikolai not only has to deal with the monster progressively getting worse, but also he has to run an entire country, the country of Ravka. So this is Nikolai's book, however, we do get multiple perspectives, such as Zoya, who is the captain of the Second Army of Grisha. She's a squaller, she can control wind, she's very cold and just doesn't really have any emotional attachments to things, and she's just down to business and very strict, stern, all those things. And then we get the perspective of Nina from the Six of Crows duology. She's recently dealt with a great loss, and she is now trying to resolve that for herself and also the person that she did lose. But also, she's trying to find out what is going on in the country of Fjerda and why they hate Grisha so much and what they are doing with Grisha. That's basically what's going on in this book, and I'm going to go straight into my pros and cons because I feel like I have a lot to say. I would say beyond this point there are going to be spoilers for this book. If you don't want to be spoiled, then I would suggest leaving now, and after you've read it, then you can come back and we can talk about it. So bye. Alright, so let's start with my pros of this book. My first pro would have to be Nikolai. I really loved his character. I'm so glad I got to know him through this book instead of maybe Shadow and Bone, because where I am in Shadow and Bone right now, we haven't met him yet. I really love his character. He's just got that wit, that charm, and he's also just has a way with words, and that's why he's like so respected as a king. It's mentioned a lot in this book, but it says that he has a lot of sway with politics. We love him for that. A true king indeed. My next pro would have to be Zoya. When she was introduced in Crooked Kingdom, I wasn't really a big fan of her. I thought she was just kind of mean and rude and stuff, and I just didn't see what Nina saw in her. She like idolized her and all those things, and I just didn't understand why, because she seemed pretty rude. But I changed my mind. I would do anything for her. I would die for her. Enough said. And my third pro is Nikolai plus Zoya. I actually really like them together. I do understand that they're not like a typical match, you would think, because Zoya is so closed off and Nikolai is like the complete opposite of that. He's very charismatic. That's why I love them so much. We don't get like romance in this book, which is nice, I guess. I just love their interactions. Their banter was really well done. I think Leigh Bardugo's really strong point is banter and conversation, because most of the green tabs in this book represent the banter that I liked between Zoya and Nikolai. That's a lot of green tabs. Another pro that I want to mention that is not related to Nikolai and Zoya would be Nina's new power being explored. If you do not remember, in Six of Crows, Nina has taken this drug called Jotaparem, which enhances Grisha's abilities, but really quickly kills them because it's so strong. They just don't know how to control this new surge of power. Nina survives this addiction and ends up having new powers instead. Nina was originally a heartrender, which means she could kind of control people's bodies and kill them with just her hands, but now with the after effects, the side effects of Jotaparem, she now has the ability to talk to the dead, also has the ability to make the dead talk back. It's just really interesting how it's like a twist on her original power. I really liked that. There was actually a certain page in this book where Nina is confronting the well mother of Fjerda, who has been keeping these women in this facility. Most of these women, if not all of them, are pregnant, and they are taking this Jotaparem, but it's like a different version of Jotaparem, and it's just killing them, and yeah, it's horrible. but Nina is able to bring these dead people back. They are speaking to the Well Mother about what she's done. It's kind of like in Matilda, where she has the chalk right on the chalkboard for the Trunchbull. Yeah, I really liked that part. And then the big plot twist at the end. Where I am in Shadow and Bone, the Darkling has just been introduced. I already like him a lot. I'm really excited to see him portrayed in the Netflix show, but we'll just have to wait for that. But the big ending in this book is when the Darkling is brought back to life, but he's not himself anymore. His soul is in Yuri's body, and Yuri is like the little monk guy that travels along with Nikolai and Zoya as they cross the fold and meet the saints. I actually really liked this ending. I heard some people didn't like it just because the resurrection trope where they just didn't need to bring back the Darkling. But I know some people were also complaining about Mal being revived in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, and they were saying, oh, the Darkling should have been revived, not him. Well, here you go. So I'm really excited to see what happens in Rule of Wolves, which is the sequel to this. I really like the Darkling's character. I don't like his motives, but I do like the character itself. My last pro would have to be Matthias's Wolf Trassel meeting with Nina. I just thought that was a nice addition. He didn't really have any part in this book. However, I just liked seeing Nina connect with Matthias in that way, because Matthias had just told her the story about how he picked Trassel. And now I'm going to get into some neutral opinions that I had. They weren't really like pros or cons, just kind of like in the middle. Firstly, the scenes with Isaac, who is like a palace, what is he? He's either a palace guard or a soldier. Nikolai, Zoya, and Yuri have been gone for a really long amount of time, but Nikolai has set up this party where he'll not only find a wife, but also make some connections with the other countries over politics and such. And the fact that Nikolai, Zoya, and Yuri are not there, especially Nikolai, there has to be someone to pretend to be the king, and that would have to be Isaac. Genya, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Genya tailors Isaac to look exactly like Nikolai, and he actually plays the part very well, but then in the end he is killed. I just thought that maybe it could have been introduced a little bit earlier, that he took over Nikolai's position. And it also just felt like a Wyland/Kuei 2.0, where someone was tailored to look like someone else and then you have like two of the same person. I felt kind of like iffy about that just because of when it happened. This was like really late in the book, like the last fourth of the book probably. Early voting started 4 days ago. Thanks, random number. I can't vote. And that's what I have to say mostly for all of my cons as well. The time that events happened, I feel like could have been earlier. My last neutral opinion would have to be the saints being evil. I feel like I've seen this before, where like this worshipped figure is suddenly evil and wants to take over the world. I feel like I've seen that before somewhere, probably a lot. I think it's okay in this situation for the saints to be evil, because, I mean, that's a pretty good conflict if you ask me. But again, just the reveal that the saints were evil, and also just when it happened, I just felt like it was too late to get me interested in the fact that they were evil. But those are really my only neutral opinions, and now we're gonna get into the cons. My number one complaint with this book and what happened in the book was actually Nina's relationship with Hane. Hane is one, Jarl Brum's daughter, which was revealed kind of late, and I was like, oh gosh, Nina has to deal with this guy again. If you don't know who Jarl Brum is, he is the commander of the Druskel army. In Fjerda, those Druskel are meant to kill Grisha. He's basically after Nina the entire time, and in 60 Pros he actually runs into Nina again, and she gets in trouble and all those things. But now she has to deal with him once more in this book, but she only meets him because of Hane. And Hane, she's like disguised as someone else and trying to live her life freely because she can't do that when she's under his control. And basically Nina develops a crush on her. There were a few things that bothered me with this. One, and above all, Matthias. Did you just forget about him? Like, Nina has just buried Matthias and has said her goodbyes and realized that the voice in her head wasn't him and it was just her. She's dealing with this huge loss, and all of a sudden she meets this girl and is like, oh my gosh, her lips are perfect, her hair is so pretty, I want to twirl it in my fingers or something like that. And I just didn't like that because of how she had just lost the love of her life, and now she is developing a crush on someone like he never was a part of her life. Now, I will say I had an idea for this in case Leigh Bardugo still wanted to like keep Hane in the story and them to have some kind of romantic relationship, and that would be if Hane was the one that had a crush on Nina and later they develop a relationship in Rule of Wolves. But I just wouldn't say that Nina moving on so quickly just it didn't make sense for the bond that she had with Matthias. That was the one complaint that I really had with this book. It was just the fact that Nina had jumped into this other relationship without really giving Matthias any other thoughts. And at one point, I did believe that this was some kind of attempt to prove that Nina was bi, because in Crooked Kingdom, it is implied that she is bisexual, where she says that she flirts with girls as well as boys. And I was like, cool with that, because that's nice. If the circumstances were a bit different and she and Matthias had never been with each other, maybe I would have liked the relationship a little bit more. Yeah, I've said enough about that. And my final con would have to be Zoya's interactions with Juris. I already touched on this in my neutral opinion, so those are probably cons. I really wish that Zoya, Nikolai, and Yuri had gotten to the fold and met the Saints earlier in the book and not in the last half. Just because when one of the Saints just turns evil on them and decides to bring back the Darkling, she poisons Juris, who is a dragon and one of the Saints. Zoya finds him in this condition and realizes that everything's going wrong. She starts crying over him. It takes a lot for Zoya to cry. I'm just putting that out there. Like, she does not cry or have really any strong emotions at all, so this is a huge deal. But I just didn't see many interactions with them to begin with. I know that Juris was trying to help her gain all powers of the Grisha magic system, and I thought that was nice because he just broke her amplifier, so he has to make it up to her somehow. They only had like a few scenes together, and I just didn't see the connection that they had, other than the fact that she was the trainee and he was the mentor. That's really all I got from that. So again, if that happened a little bit earlier, it would have made Saint Lisbeth, I don't know what her name is, I'm really sorry, the one saint that turned evil, it would have made her becoming the antagonist more like shocking, but also the relationship between Zoya and Juris a little bit more like realistic. And yeah, that's really all I have to say for this book. In general, I really liked this book. I'm really excited for Rule of Wolves, which comes out March 30th of 2021. I love Nikolai and Zoya and Nikolai, and yes. I don't know what my next video will be. I'll have to think about that. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.